Hey guys, welcome back to another video. I want to talk to you about many things today, but the first part of this video will be about the developments on the ground today from Gaza and from Lebanon. And the second half will be regarding the longevity of the war, multiple statements that were made by Benjamin Netanyahu, and things to do with ammunition. It seems like Israel is committing suicide in broad daylight in front of all of us, and you will know why towards the end of this video. But to start off with, on the ground, the Palestinian resistance in Gaza, they're increasingly getting more and more sophisticated. I mean, previously we used to have videos of them being posted about their activities against the Israeli army in Gaza every few days, sometimes once or twice a week. Now we're seeing multiple videos a day. And again, I said it yesterday and multiple times previously. This is just highlighting how much they're in control of what's happening. They're putting cameras, footage of them fighting, of them monitoring Israeli soldiers everywhere they go. The Israeli army, they know everything that's happening. And they're giving them lethal blows, one place after another. So this is very significant because, like, Yoav Gallant is saying that they're almost done with the northern part of Gaza. And many of these videos are coming from North Gaza. Like, there are certain areas that they've invaded since the beginning of their ground invasion. But it seems like they have no control over anything. To this day, we're 80 days into this war and they have no control whatsoever. They're all over the place. In Lebanon, we've seen much increased tension. Hezbollah targeted 9 Israeli locations today, and Hezbollah's targeting is very sophisticated. They target a certain place, their weapons are very accurate, they will video everything, show you a map of the whole location, who's in there, take images of them, similar to what Hamas are doing in Gaza, but on a higher scale, basically. So they targeted 9 locations. One of them is a central command in Kiryat Shmoni settlement in northern Israel. So this is just showing that the tensions are increasing, and these could be signals as well from Iran following the assassination of the IRGC leader yesterday in Syria, which brings me to the following development that was significant. I mean, Israel has cyber attacks quite frequently. But today there was a cyber attack that took place, and according to Israeli reports, it cut off the electricity for over 150,000 people. Some people said it's a cyber attack from Iran. The relevant bodies in Israel denied that, and they said there was a technical glitch. There were previous cyber attacks from Sudanese Anonymous previously this year. Some of them took multiple hours, but today's electric shutdown could be another sign from Iran that we're doing something, or it's part of their retaliation against Israel potentially, or we might see something else coming up in the next few days. Israel's embassy also in India was targeted. Apparently there was an explosion over there. So this is signaling that things are getting out of control, and this is resonating with what Benjamin Netanyahu is saying. He had an article published in the Wall Street Journal where he said they are going ahead in full force. They're going to demolish Hamas. They want to take full security control. He had ministers from his cabinet like Smotrich saying that Egypt and Qatar are going to play no role. The only role Egypt is going to play, and I'm going to add a bit more about Egypt. There were important developments with them. The only role that they can play, Smotrich said, is basically opening the borders. That's the only thing that they need to do. So he wants to expel the population of Gaza. But Netanyahu also made other statements that we're just not near the end. We're going to continue the war. We will go on full force, and we're not close to finishing it. So the guy is increasing the tone. He's not backing down. He wants an all-out war to save his position And from what we're seeing at the moment, it seems like things are starting to slowly but surely get out of control in terms of locations, areas, and the potential of other countries getting involved directly. I mean, Iran made these threats, and now we have increased tensions with Egypt. If you are not familiar, since the beginning of the war, and this is yet another proof that Israel did not target Hamas in Gaza, they targeted the whole Gaza population. In the beginning of the war, Egypt was approached by many countries, and the Egyptian leadership made very blunt statements against the Israeli attempts to ethnically cleanse the population of Gaza. So Egypt was offered apparently 20 billion US dollars. Some people say they were offered even more. And they offered them to get rid of their international debt. They had pressure from European countries, from America, obviously by the request of Israel, to open the borders. So with the initial massive strike that Israel did, the barbaric attack, the initial one, although all of their acts are barbaric, they wanted to scare people off and send them to Egypt, because Israel has a plan from 50 years ago to get rid of Gaza. It's always been a problem to them. The previous Prime Minister, Yitzhak Rabin, he said that, I wish I would wake up one day and find out that Gaza was swallowed by the sea. So they always hate Gaza because it's always been like a knife around their neck. It has always threatened them, and we can see that it's very evident at the moment. From the 7th of October attacks to this day, the fierce resistance and the resilience of the Palestinians against Israel, and the massive hole Israel has dug itself into following the 7th of October. So they had this initial pressure on Egypt. In the beginning, the Egyptian president, he told them, if you want to continue this campaign in Gaza, then how about you open your borders to the Gazan population and put them in the Negev desert, Sahra al-Naqab, because many of them are Palestinian refugees from 1948, but Israel obviously doesn't want them in, they want them out. So it's quite a clever thing to tell the Israelis, because they have a similar plan with the Palestinians in the West Bank to expel them to Jordan, something that Jordan highly resists as well. And I mean, many people say, you know, on the Zionist side, maliciously, why don't the Arab nations open the border to the Palestinians? Well, that's what you want, isn't it? You want them to open the border so that all of the Palestinians can go away and you enjoy your little death cult state with your supremacy. That's what you want. But people know what you're up to. Although the Arab response is nowhere near where we wanted, but some stances to do with Israel's campaigns and ambitions against the Palestinian population, some stances of the Arabic countries were very good. And I mean, the tensions between Egypt and Israel have risen massively ever since the 7th of October, because the relation between Israel, Gaza, and Egypt is a bit complicated. So because Egypt had responsibility over Gaza before Israel occupied it. When they had a peace treaty with Egypt, Egypt told them, you need to solve the Palestinian case as part of the peace process with us, because we can't have a continuous conflict with you and Gaza and the West Bank. There must be a Palestinian state. Obviously, there is no Palestinian state because Israel does not want a Palestinian state. They had dreams of the greater Israel, from the Nile to the Euphrates. So this is an actual plan. And the fact that they occupied the whole Sinai Peninsula, parts of Syria, parts of Lebanon, parts of Jordan, just shows and highlights they're an expansionist, violent, racist state. They constantly want to expand and control other nations. So what they're doing on a small scale in Palestine, they want to do it on a bigger scale, but they cannot do it on a bigger scale because they'll dig themselves even a bigger hole than what they have so far. So this relationship between Egypt, Israel, and Gaza has been complicated. So Israel had a treaty with the Philadelphia crossing, the Philadelphia line, it's called, which is the Rafah borders between Gaza and Egypt, where the Palestinian Authority had control. But then obviously you had the elections in 2006, Hamas won. There were multiple coup attempts against the Hamas government, and then eventually Hamas took full control in 2007. Then Israel said, we are completely shutting everything, and Egypt shut it for a very prolonged period. But that area is very strategic between Egypt and Gaza because it was the lifeline of the Gazans from 50 years ago. But with time, the tunnels got more and more sophisticated. There was a period where tensions rose even further because Egypt had obviously the Muslim Brotherhood government that they took off in a military coup. And then they had massive tensions because Hamas and the new government in Egypt, they didn't like each other. So the Egyptians took more action, or apparently they took more action against the tunnels. However, saying that there are definitely functioning tunnels between Gaza and Egypt, and that's why tensions are rising again now. So Egypt is now in a better condition with Hamas because Egypt traditionally saw Gaza as a front against Israel. So the late Egyptian head of intelligence, Omar Suleiman, with the Mubarak regime, he used to say that we need Hamas and we need Gaza to be powerful because it's a strategic point against Israel. We don't want Israel on our borders, which is what Israel is trying to do now. Obviously, the conditions between the Egyptian government and Hamas improved with the years. They understood that they both need each other. And there are functioning tunnels, but obviously they're kept secret because each country has a right to keep things like that secret, like Israel does. But Israel obviously always acts as the entitled country in the area, and they attack everyone under the banner of self-defense. I mean, no one talks about the fact that Israel constantly attacks foreign countries on a regular basis. They attack Lebanon, they attack Syria, they bomb in countries that are independent, and they do it as an act of self-defense, they call it. Like with the attacks against Syria, Iran has a channel to Hezbollah, as if they're the only country that's entitled to save itself and have connections and be secretive about things that are detrimental for global security, like their nuclear project. I mean, they've been banging on about the Iranian nuclear project now for decades, yet they have their own secret nuclear plan, and some reports say they have over 300 nuclear warheads, and they actually made a threat to use nuclear weapons. What kind of hypocrisy do we live in? They threat with nuclear weapons, they keep it as a secret, yet they feel like they're entitled to tell other countries what to do. So Egypt and Gaza, they're fully entitled to have a functioning tunnel system between both of them because Israel has an inhumane blockade on Gaza. And by the way, in many cases, you're talking about basic essentials, fuel, medicine, food. At one point, it was the lifeline for Gaza when their electric power was cut off. And Israel thinks it's entitled to control everything. So now, what Israel is saying is the Hamas leadership might be in tunnels between Egypt and Gaza. Obviously, it's very probable. However, again, each country, each nation is entitled to do whatever it wishes when it comes to tunnels, when it comes to security, and when it comes to its own sovereignty. Now, with the Camp David Accords, they've already been demolished. Like, the Sinai Peninsula should be a demilitarized zone. Egypt now, since the 7th of October, they have over 100,000 troops, including tanks in the Sinai Peninsula and heavy weapons. In accordance to the Camp David Accords, that's not possible. So they technically broke it without saying anything. But now they are against Israel's proposal. They have given them a massive no to them controlling the Rafah border between Gaza and Egypt. Israel says it's detrimental for its security and that they want to control it, but the Egyptians are refusing, because to them it's a matter of national security. They don't want Israel to be directly there in Gaza, and from a strategic point of view, they need to have Hamas strong in Gaza as a threat to Israel, as in you deal with each other and we have kind of a buffer zone between us and Israel, although they have a very long border in the desert, in the Naqab desert, the Negev desert. But with Gaza, it's very strategic to them, because obviously they have their own relations with Gaza, and it's one of the main lifelines for Gaza. So Israel wants complete control, and they're going ahead with their plans. It's in line with Netanyahu's plan to completely get rid of Hamas, according to him, his wishful thinking, and to gain control, and he's still talking about the day after. That's coming at the same time that they are openly struggling with weapons. Alon Ben David, who is a very famous Israeli military analyst, said that we're running out of ammunition. We're running out of ammunition. Firstly, they just asked America to supply them with more Apache helicopters. Israel has approximately 48 Apache helicopters, and they're very, very efficient when it comes to urban warfare. They can throw Hellfire missiles, they have machine guns, but it looks like they need some more. So some of them clearly were targeted, and they need more pilots. They're calling more pilots to assist with the Apache helicopters. America, although now they can use their emergency law to bypass Congress when it comes to giving Israel aid, when it comes to financial aid or military aid, they still haven't responded to Israel's request to get more Apache helicopters. And I mean, we've seen the pattern of a decrease in terms of the intensity of the firepower used against Gaza. Obviously, again, everything is a crime against humanity, a genocide, an atrocity. Don't get me wrong here. But the intensity is not the same. Before the ceasefire, a temporary ceasefire, you've had 16,000 people killed. After the temporary ceasefire, which is more now in days of battle between the Palestinians and the Israeli offense forces, you're talking about 4,000 casualties. Obviously, every life is tragic, lost, but there's a difference. You're talking about a quarter. So clearly, they had a telling off from America that you can't go with that level of bombardment. And clearly now, they need more weapons. And it wasn't just about the Apaches. So Alon Ben David said, we need ammunition. He said there is no indefinite supply of TNT. And the problem with the TNT market is its majority control is in the Asia-Pacific region. China is one of the main manufacturers. You have Japan, you have South Korea, and China, being the biggest one, is not supplying anything to Israel. I mean, they refuse to help Israeli ships with their warships in the Red Sea. We've heard the report a few days ago where they asked the Chinese warships to help them in the Red Sea, and they refused to help them. So the Chinese are not going to help them. The Chinese are not going to help America. And now there are talks about an official military alliance between Russia and China, which is worrying America. We've had people saying that it's the biggest threat America has faced since 30 years. So things are getting slowly but surely out of control. And with Netanyahu's insane ambitions and wishful thinking of demolishing Hamas, he is de facto making Israel commit suicide in broad daylight. I mean, there's no other way to explain it. They are actually committing suicide. You're attracting more hostility. You're pissing on strategic relationships that you have, primarily with Egypt and even with Jordan. Although again, like I said previously, obviously the level of response from the Arab countries is not enough. Absolutely, it's not enough. I think they should have taken action from day one and prevented these massacres from happening. But saying that, it's not all happy clappy between them, and they're ruining their strategic relationships and opening the doors of hell. And this leads us to a conclusion that I thought about when I saw these statistics and recent reports. Are these other countries the big enemies of Israel? Although some of them might have relations with them. Were they waiting for a moment where Israel would run out of ammunition to potentially take advantage and attack Israel? The following days will show us where things are going. So these were the main things that I wanted to talk to you about today. As usual, I hope you enjoyed my video, and I'll see you soon in the next video. Take care.